When Jeep confirmed the Meridian's launch in India, I got excited for two main reasons. Number one, like the Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace and the Skoda Kodiaq, this is a monocoque SUV. So I'm expecting near car-like driving dynamics and a more enthusiastic experience from behind the wheel. And two, it's a Jeep. So it should be able to deal with a bigger off-road challenge than just Mumbai's SV road after the monsoons, like you'd expect from a ladder frame alternative like the Toyota Fortuner. So the question is, are you getting that balance with the Jeep Meridian? And if so, how? Well, one way in which they found this balance is by giving this car some seriously punishment-friendly ladder frame-like ride quality. Seriously, there is no bump, no pothole that's going to feel too daunting for this car, and it really takes every single undulation, every bump, every bad patch of road like an absolute champion, even though it's riding on, well, pretty big 18-inch alloy wheels. But the benefit here is that unlike your ladder frame SUVs, when you deal with those bumps or bad roads, you aren't dealing with a lot of side-to-side tossing or body roll as a consequence. And it'll also handle a little bit of beginners off-roading because it does come with all-wheel drive. In fact, I think I'm going to test that out for a bit. Alright, so now it's time to test out the Meridian's off-road capability, and a lot of the stuff on paper does seem promising. Of course, it is a monocoque SUV, so you have to wonder how capable is it going to be. And what Jeep has told us is they've decided to go with a course that's going to be representative of a general trail. So it's not been tailor-made to suit the Meridian's capabilities, but to test it out. So we'll be the judge of that.
The trail included challenges like rock crawls, steep and sandy inclines, angular drops and axle breakers. Reasonably challenging and enough to keep seasoned off-roaders entertained too.
Alright, having completed that entire off-road trail, I have to say I'm coming back thoroughly impressed. Yes, the Meridian is a monocoque SUV. The 4-lock system is transmission based. It doesn't have the traditional transfer case, and you have a 4-high lock. You do have 4x4 in general, which is front biased. And given all that, you'd expect it to be more focused on slush, sand, snow, stuff like that. But even with the articulation, the downward drops, the water wading a little bit that we did test out, what stands out is how effortless and amateur off-roader friendly it is. You have to drive it as you naturally would on the road, as our instructors were telling us, and it just handles everything by itself electronically. So it's very intelligent, but more importantly, it doesn't feel challenging to use it.
So the Meridian proved it's a capable off-roader, the kind of car that typically isn't meant for fun on the road.
But what you aren't getting as a consequence is the Herculean handling of a typical ladder frame SUV. So from behind the wheel of the Meridian, you get a very similar enthusiast-pleasing experience like you do in the Compass, the SUV on which the Meridian is based. It just feels very car-like, and it's quite enjoyable and, let's say, easy to hustle from behind the wheel. Now on the powertrain front, there's a couple of things you need to know. Our drive on the road has been fairly brief, but there's some little characteristics that come out with this engine. Yes, it's the same 2-liter diesel that you get in the Compass, and the output figures are more or less the same. What you will find as a difference is that the tuning over here is a bit more towards the smoothness, giving it a little bit more ease of use, especially if you're running with a full load. So when you pin the throttle, you're not going to get that same sense of urgency that you would in the Compass. So yes, it doesn't feel as taut, as sporty as the Compass, but what you are getting as a trade-off is a smoother drive experience, a slightly more linear throttle response, and of course, more comfortable ride quality as well. So then, long story short, yes, you can tell it's a diesel, so you can hear a little bit of that coarseness from a diesel engine, and you won't get that same level of sophistication that you would with, say, a Kodiaq petrol, obviously. And even with the performance, it's going to suffice for your daily needs, overtaking, highway cruising, absolutely no issues whatsoever. But you may have wanted a little bit more of that wow factor, which you're not going to get in the outright performance or even the tune of the throttle, because it is decidedly towards comfort and usability with a full load. And yes, even the transmission, it's smooth for 99% of your usage, but sometimes you may wish for a little bit more responsiveness. Now, on the subject of its performance with a full load, can't say much because we haven't had a chance to test it out. The in-cabin experience feels properly rich. Every single component that you touch and feel feels upmarket. And while I won't say that it's an upgrade compared to or a level up compared to the Compass, with this brown and black combination, the Meridian's cabin does feel just that little bit nicer.
And considering the Meridian will be offered in 2 loaded variants, there's a lot to brag about on the features front. That includes dual zone AC with rear AC vents, ventilated and powered front seats with memory, perforated leather upholstery and a powered tailgate. The infotainment package is a big draw in itself, with the 10-inch infotainment screen that supports wireless CarPlay and Auto, a wireless phone charger, 9-speaker music system and 10.2-inch digital driver's display.
When it comes to the second row experience, the cabin does feel really roomy, but it's nothing exceptional. 2 6-footers, one behind the other, no problem at all. And the under-thigh support in the second row is really good. But of course, I cannot sit behind my own driving position with this height of 6.5 feet. So basically what I'm saying is that if you want a backseat driven option and you're already looking at something like the Compass, don't expect the Meridian to feel like a significantly larger car. In fact, in this row, you will find that the headroom is a little lacking in comparison to the Compass, and the backrest here is also that little bit smaller. So unless you really want the practicality of what's behind me, the Compass should do just fine. Speaking of which,
a flip of the one-touch lever gets you in that back row. A quick look at the seat makes it obvious who should be back there, and it definitely isn't me.
So, is the Meridian really a 7-seater? The answer to that question needs a little nuance. If you're talking about short adults or kids, absolutely no issues. The headroom back there, as you can see, is actually pretty good. You've got roof-mounted AC vents with blower speed control and even cup holders back there. But it is not a thoroughbred 7-seater. So if you compare it to something like a Fortuner and definitely comparison to the Gloster, the Meridian is not going to feel as comfortable in the third row. But if you want Compass-like qualities with the additional practicality and flexibility that you get with more boot space, especially since the second row does fold down as well, or maybe if you have a pet in the house that you'd like to take along with your family, this works just fine. What they've also done well with is offering some of Big Brother's charm on a more compressed scale. Yes, viewed head-on, it does look quite similar to the Jeep Compass, but from every other angle, it looks like a downsized version of the Jeep Grand Cherokee, especially because of the side profile and those LED tail lights. Overall, when you look at the design, it just strikes you as something bold and muscular. It's got that good old school boxy design, a beautiful set of 18-inch alloy wheels, a good use of chrome, tasteful even, and while it won't have the same butt factor as its ladder frame alternatives, especially in terms of height, it does have presence. So then, the answer is yes. With the Meridian, Jeep has managed to find a good balance in the space, offering enjoyable driving dynamics without feeling delicate when it comes to the rough stuff. And should you decide to go off-roading, you can be confident in knowing that this is going to put up with a lot more than just dirt roads or slush. It also feels properly rich on the inside and comes loaded with features. Now, is this an upgrade to the Jeep Compass? If you own the pre-facelift car, yes, and if you're planning to buy the Jeep Compass new, this could be a good alternative if you wanted the same values with a little bit more practicality and flexibility. In fact, if they price it right, this can also prove to be a stronger value proposition than the ladder frame alternatives like the Fortuner or Gloster, provided you're okay with the math that this 5 plus 2 is not going to equal their 7.